and I will send out an email. Okay, so we are now recording, and we hope that you enjoy it. If you have any questions, I encourage you to put those questions into the chat, and we'll answer those questions at the end of the webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and let our two speakers show themselves, which I see that they already have, and we're going to go ahead and get started for the day. So ladies, please introduce yourselves.
Well, I'll go first. I'm Leander Croker, and Brittany, you had it right. It is Durham County Library, but we are a public library. And I am from Dayton, Ohio. I came to North Carolina back in 2002 to go to the Winston-Salem State University. Upon leaving Winston-Salem State, I started working at North Carolina A&T State, and then worked my way through library school at UNCG, and then had a foray into media specialist at an elementary school in Durham, and children were not for me. So then I went back to academic at Johnson Community College and was there for 3 years. And I've been with Durham County since 2014, 15, 16, maybe.
Hi, I am Claudia Alemán. I am from Los Angeles, California. That's right. The Dodgers just won the World Series. So yay, go Dodgers. I started my librarianship in I'm like, Leander, wow, it's been like so long. Like, when did I start my journey? But let me think about the year, and then I'll get back to that. I started at UNCG as an undergraduate, and then I moved on to my master's degree at North Carolina Central University. I started at Randolph County, and from there I moved on to Durham County. And I've been in Durham County since 2013. And I hope to keep on growing with Durham County because I do love the organization. And I think it has a lot to offer to everyone who comes in for librarians.
Awesome, awesome. And how did you decide to collaborate and create an Instagram space for librarians of color? Like, what made you guys think of that?
Well, Claudia and I have a great friendship in addition to our work relationship. And we sat back in a different world, less than 2 feet away from each other for 2 years in a transitional space in Northgate Mall in Durham. And we would listen to like YouTube videos as we were working, and we would start bantering. And then one day Claudia saw an ALA magazine and I'll let her describe it because she was very passionate about this moment.
It was an ALA magazine in 2017. They published a cover. It was Librarians of Jeopardy. And I looked at the cover, and all I saw was older Caucasian women that did not represent a person of color or a Latina like me. And there was 2 other men on there. One was white, and then the other was, I don't know if they were a person of color, but anyhow, the whole idea became to where like, who is representing us? So then Leander and I kept talking about it. And also she introduced me to Deeses and Merrill. So I always say she is my Deeses to my Merrill, and I'm her Merrill to her Deeses. And if you don't know who Deeses and Merrill are, you really need to find out because they are hilarious.
Awesome. And what inspired the theme behind your page?
Well, the theme of our page is CNL LOL, and it's a play on words. We laugh a lot when we're together. And then it's also left out librarians because outside of North Carolina, it's a lot of minorities and POCs are in industries where they are, as my mentor Ayanna Sims used to say, the only brown M&M in the bowl. And so sometimes out of, I think, 100,000 librarians, 10,000 of them are POCs across the nation. So we created a space to where it's just highlighting issues and showing that we're here, even though we may feel left out.
Okay.
And let me just also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
That Leander and I have a really good relationship. I always like to say that she's my little sister, like my little sister, and I like to pick on her, but in a good way. And that's how we get to have good banter back and forth. And I know when I'm when I'm knowing her a little bit, so that's when I back up. I'm like, okay, little sister, I'm sorry. But then we come back and we just start, brainstorming wonderful things that we want to do and keep on doing in our careers.
Okay, okay. How would you describe the current demographic of your followers? Because I think that that's important, especially the target audience that you really want to focus on.
Well, our target audience are other librarians. So we follow a lot of librarians across the nation that I follow personally on our personal pages, as well as organizations, BCLA, and things like that. And so really we have a very small following, but we have I'm looking at our engagements now. We have a 98% engagement rate. So when we post things, our users are looking at it, commenting or liking the image. So at least we know that they're getting the message out. Every now and then we'll get some shares, but what we really like to do with our page is take things that we see in different areas and highlight it so it fits in North Carolina. Like Claudia said, she's from Los Angeles, so she has a lot of West Coast influences that she'll see that come across her Explore page on her personal page, and so she'll send it to me, and then I'll repost it here. And it's really just to elevate those voices that are not being heard or expand the knowledge here in North Carolina of what's going on internationally and nationally.
Claudia, did you want to add anything?
Nope, she nailed it down.
Okay. And so what is your strategy to gain followers? And is that important to you to gain?
That's not our goal.
It's not important. I think that we do it because we enjoy it. We have fun with it. We want, as librarians, we want to keep informing our community and the public, and not just of what we're doing, but also like resources that are out there. For example, in Durham County, whenever they have like free COVID testing, we can go ahead and put that on our page. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's just going to be for Durham County, but maybe somebody in another state or another county can be like, hey, this sounds like a good way to promote COVID testings, because not everyone is going to have access to that information. And you know how information trickles down. It's always word of mouth, by word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And ours is more of an organic flow. We like to add people that we have on our personal pages, or we'll see things like, I like them, I want to follow them. And I will say that our page that we manage together is a lot more curated to librarianship, as well as, I don't know if you all know Billy Allen. He does the Three Kings Vision. So he has like the real fun story times, and he promotes like the crazy, like story time at 7 videos. He always says that it's also a recruiting tool. I posted an ALA conversation about diversifying our recruiting methods in librarianship, but we have to get people who want to be librarians. And that's also part of it, so they can see that librarians are not these older white spaces anymore. They're really cool people, I mean, self-proclaimed, but cool people who are doing different things and interacting in different ways and getting their community message out, which is really important to this upcoming generation, so they can see that this is a field that they can make an impact in. And I always say, you can't be what you can't see. And so it's really to just kind of show the image that librarianship is much more than what we're presented in movies and TV, and maybe even what you see in your community.
How do you all use hashtags? I know that you were saying that, Claudia, that you send Leander things that you have found from the West Coast that you thought would be very useful over here on the East Coast with librarianship trends. And so do you all use the hashtags to just kind of branch out and let your followers see what you all are seeing outside of what you post on your page?
Yeah, so I usually do most of the posting. So Claudia will send it. And so what I always do is we always credit where we get the information from. So I use a reposting app, and it will either have in the description, it will have where it came from along with their message and maybe what we'll add. And then I always make sure I have the link to their page on the side of the image. And so with the hashtags, we use kind of what's popular, but I always make sure they're pertinent, because you can kind of, like Google bombing, like used to be back in the day, just so you get at the top of the search page. But I always use Elevate Melanated Voices, Black librarians, Latina librarians, and our one that we try to create, which is CNL LOL, just because if you like us and you follow that hashtag, you'll see what we kind of post. So we're not a slave to it. I could probably do a better job about doing things so we can end up hitting the Explore page to get it out. But it's just kind of, we're still in the building phase of what works for us and what we think will work for the community and what we see. And of course, if you notice, even with your personal Instagram pages, the newest result may not be the most recent. So it's just trying to navigate what that looks like and how that reaches your audience.
Okay. And I know that you were saying that you were looking at your engagements at Instagram earlier. So how often do you check your engagements to see what's necessary to post, what you should stray away from?
I don't think there's anything we stray away from. Claudia and I, in our personal side conversations, if you watch Jesus and Mary, you'll understand we have very hot takes. Those hot takes might not always make it to our Instagram page, but what we post, everything we believe in. So it wouldn't matter if it wouldn't do well. Like even with the SARS campaign in Nigeria and what's going on over on the continent of Africa, I'd make sure I did my research before I posted it, and just instead of jumping on what was hot or what was going on right now, I wanted to educate myself. So that way I could have, okay, this person has a great resource and it has links to other things. And that's how we kind of repost. So I don't think there's anything we've shied away from. I think we've had conversations when we would see things and we'd say, hey, what do you think of this? And, you know, I always go, that's too spicy. That's too spicy. And then so we'll try to find something that's along the line so we still don't maybe hot topic issues.
And yes, that is correct. And we also try to, you know, also keep it PC, because as librarians, we want to make sure that everyone's also getting the right information and not the wrong information. We also try to promote what we're doing within the library system. So, yeah.
And that's something we struggled with in the beginning. We didn't want people to know where we worked. Because we just didn't know, because again, like with anyone, Claudia is my friend. So what we discuss sometimes can be extremely hot, particularly when it comes to things like race relations and our stance and our feelings. And we were deciding about how deep in depth we would go. So in the beginning, we're like, we don't want anybody to know we work for Durham County. If they know, they just know. So, but then after a while, because we did so much community outreach at that time, and we like to highlight that, it was just like, we can't keep it a secret. And, you know, neither one of us are going to do anything that's going to jeopardize our standing in our profession anyway. So we were just like, we're just going to go ahead. If we're in Durham County gear, like we are in the picture on the flyer, we're in Durham County gear.
And another question, how do you schedule your posts throughout the week? Like, how do you keep up with your content?
I would recommend you do schedule. We do not. We post when we feel it. Like I'll get up and I'll see on my Instagram, Claudia be like, hey, repost this. Or I'll see something and I'm saying, you know, most times I don't check in with my big sister what we need to post, but I'm like, you know, I like this message, let's get it out. Or I'll post something to our stories, which is usually the easiest way. Because most people, I've noticed in my personal page and what I've seen on my insights on there, is people will look at your Instagram story as opposed to maybe even seeing your post. So if I feel like it's kind of something that's pertinent at that moment, I'll just repost it to our stories, and people will see that and they'll either engage with us in our DMs that way.
And this goes back to also where we trust each other. We know we're not going to do something where we're either going to hurt each other or try to put one another down. We trust in each other that we know we're going to be doing the right thing.
And that's important, especially with you all collaborating so closely and you all having that relationship. I think that trust is already there. how do you guys feel about going live and creating IGTV content? Because that's something that I feel like gets the engagements, the numbers high, because people like to see folks in action and what they're really, the work they're putting in behind their posts and their content.
I think we had talked about going live back in a world where we were open doing outreach, because we just loved being out. We would go out on Duke's campus and do card drives. We'd go to our senior centers, and our seniors love us. So, you know, it was one of those things where we had talked about it, and then the world closed. And, you know, I'm very shy. It may not appear that way, but I'm very, very shy. So I'm a little bit more reserved, where it's like, Claudia's like, let's do it. Let's get out there. Let's post. So I haven't done it yet, mainly because I'm shy about it. And Claudia,
Leander, be honest. You know what she actually said? Because I got pregnant in 2017 and I had my child in 28. She's like, no, baby Cece ruined things.
She did. Because we had a whole series planned out for ALA New Orleans, where we were going to be doing some things there, and Claudia got pregnant and she couldn't do it. So, and then she didn't come to ALA Seattle. So we had a whole plan.
We did.
And now that now that Cece's older, when the world opens back up, maybe we'll start that like conference series again. But we had some things planned out.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do it without her. So
yeah. And I think that we have been planning it out. So eventually we will. And we also want to start a podcast. So that'll be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, now I guess it's too early for you guys to talk about that brainchild. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. We've been brainstorming some things, marinating it. So
and I think that's a little bit more of our personality that will come through on there, because our conversations, again, we talk a lot about race and how it impacts us. And I think these conversations need to be had, because again, Claudia and I, you know, Claudia's Latina, she hates Latinx. If you can do in the comments if you agree or not agree with her, but she doesn't enjoy that term. And I'm Black, and you know, our cultural conversations that we have with one another, because our perspectives are different, are really eye-opening, because we respect and trust each other. And I always say, I would rather a person respect me than to like me, because when you respect me, you're more open to hearing my concerns, my issues, and addressing them in a way than if you just like me and you're like, oh, I like Leander, but you can still be utterly disrespectful to me as a person. And with Claudia and my relationship, because we respect one another, we can have those tough conversations that I don't feel a lot of people can maybe have with their friends, particularly if they're of a different race or cultural ethnic background, that we could have. So that's, I think, when we get into a space where we're ready to do that podcast, that's really, I think, where we'll come from, because we love each other, but we respect each other most. And I think that's where the conversation can come from.
But I also think you guys' personalities are so like enjoyable. They're funny. I think that people, like, even with the heavy conversations, people would still, you know, engage with those podcasts, because, you know, you guys make it easy to have those kind of conversations. So I look forward to the podcast. I hope you guys post it on your Instagram page once it gets, you know, once it's ready. I definitely look forward to participating in that. So as far as other librarians of color, right? So networking has become this big thing, even with the pandemic, and we are trying to find ways to come up with virtual programming, find spaces that cater to our mental health, positive mental health, but we're also looking for pages where we can just be real and honest with each other about issues that are impacting us and how we deal with our library community and cultures. And so I was wondering, did you guys have any librarian of color Instagram pages, maybe groups that you would like to share with the participants that they may want to engage with outside of your own?
I do. I have a list. So Lib Voices, they have a podcast, and their podcast is about highlighting minority librarianship. So each week they tend to have someone in the profession to discuss their road to where they are at. And it's really because again, I always like to emphasize in North Carolina, we are blessed to have the amount of minority librarians kind of at arm's reach, where some people, they're maybe the only one in their entire system. And so it creates kind of a silo of I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm alone. So Lib Voices really kind of combats that and shows people how people have navigated, particularly in academic. I know that's a big one if you're at a predominant university, at PWI, where you are battling things of being a minority, getting tenure and doing that process alone. Because I grew up in that world, essentially. It's very difficult if you're in an institution where you don't have someone who knows what you're going through and being the questions that come with being a POC in that position. Also, Libraries Where they used to do meetups across the nation of minority librarians. And I know they had one at ALA. They're great. Blacked and Booked. She is a librarian in my home state of Ohio. And if you see her, she always has like a little bit emoji over her face, and she has really fun engagements. Again, Billie Allen, who does the Three Kings Visions. And there was another one I want to highlight. She's a school librarian, and she's always posting about school librarianship in DC and how it's needed, because there was a big budget cut that there was coming to take their librarians out of the schools.
I think she's the boss librarian.
Yes, the boss librarian. And just personally, I like the hood librarian as well.
Yeah.
Because she posts the hot takes that I won't necessarily post, but I'm like, yes, like, subscribe, repost. I really like her. So any of those, I think, are just kind of great just to see the diversity that comes in POCs and librarianship. And Claudia, if you have any.
You nailed them. I like to also LA Public Library in Los Angeles, because they always have a lot of great information. And, you know, LA is a big city with all sorts of shades and colors and beautiful people. So LA Public Library is one on my top of the list.
I would like to add the favorite librarian down in Atlanta. She's really awesome. And I think it is, We Here has a Google listserv that you can join, and they're really awesome too. I think that you guys have already named the other ones, but those are the two that I would like to add to the list. And I see someone put in the chat, if we can make the list available, we will definitely do that. I will send that list to you along with the recording for the webinar. So what other advice would you give to other librarians of color who are considering starting a social space that is similar to yours, and they're really just trying to figure out step one?
Make it yours, make it unique, have fun with it. Don't get stressed about it. Like Leander said at first, we both work in Durham County. We weren't sure, but if we are actually promoting the stuff that we're doing at the library, whether it's a story time, whether it's an outreach community, why not do it? Why not promote it? It's something that you're already doing it and be passionate about. Have it.
And I would say that there's enough room. Like, a lot of people look at things and say, oh, well, somebody's already doing that. They're not going to do it the same way you are.
Right.
And your perspective and your voice is important no matter what it is. Again, I'm a girl that grew up in the Midwest. My parents are both from the South. Claudia's from LA. Our perspectives are different. And so the way we'll respond and react to situations could help somebody, could inform somebody in a different way. And if no matter where you're from, you have a perspective on an issue, particularly if you're in the field of librarianship. You being behind that desk is important to somebody to see. That's why I entered the profession, because I grew up in libraries, but I did not see anyone in Ohio who looked like me behind that desk. We were working in the library, but we were not librarians. And so that's what was important to me, for some little girl to walk in and be like, oh, okay, like, I feel comfortable in this space. And so you opening that page to discuss whatever aspect of the field that you're in, you're needed.
Mhm. Okay. Well, that concludes my questions for today. I'm actually going to stop the recording so that we can begin our questions.